Welcome back, everybody. The circle is back in session. This is Lost Boys Cypher Circle. If you didn't know, now you do. This is a home of all things artistic, all things spiritual, and all those who feel lost in the world. This is a place to get your thoughts and your feelings heard without judgment, and just come hang out with some cool people and some really talented people and some like-minded people. So if you're interested in coming on the show, message me on Facebook at Dylan Lawler, or on Gmail at lostboy420x@gmail.com. That's lostboy420x@gmail.com, or Dylan Lawler on Facebook. You can also go find us on all of the streaming platforms, or anywhere you find podcasts or anything like that: Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Pandora. I'm getting tired of listing things, so you get the point. So make sure y'all go check that out and subscribe on all platforms. It helps. A comment, a like, a subscribe, everything helps. So please go check that out. And make sure you keep a lookout for our extra episodes that come out every once in a while. They're called the Deep Cuts. Lost Boys presents Deep Cuts. It's a show where I take you deeper into the hearts and minds of artists, because I get to sit down and have a one-on-one conversation with them, and just kind of pick their brain and go a little deeper on things. So they're a lot of fun. I've put, I think, 5 out so far, and each of them have been a lot of fun. So if you're interested in doing one of those with me, message me. Same thing, Lost Boy, or Lostboy420x on Gmail, or Dylan Lawler on Facebook, and we can try to schedule something. And yeah, keep a lookout for those, man. They're a lot of fun. Before we get into things, I always try to kind of reach out to people who are struggling, which is everybody right now, not just people with mental health conditions, but everywhere. Everyone's struggling, whether it's financially or mentally, or you're struggling mentally because you're struggling financially, or a mixture of whatever. Everyone's struggling. And I just always kind of like to say, there have been hard times before for all of us, and we've gotten through them. So just keep your head held high and know that we will get through them again, and know that there's always someone out there to talk to. If you need someone to talk to, you can message me. A lot of the people on this show would be happy to talk to you, and give you some guidance. There's always a friend, a coworker, a colleague, or somebody in your life who is willing to talk to you and give you some guidance and help you, whether you think there is or not. You can also reach out to some resources that I have here, such as 988 Lifeline Crisis. So it's a hotline you can text, or you can go to their website, and they have trained professionals on hand to, talk to you and help you, give you some guidance. It's not like a suicide hotline. It's more of just a mental health, just for, some guidance. Like if you were going to the guidance counselor in school. There's also betterhelp.com. And what they'll do is they'll hook you up with an online therapist, text, call, video chat, whatever you want to do. If you don't like the therapist, they'll switch you out with a new one until you find someone that you're comfortable with. So that's really helpful. It's one of the cheapest options out there. So I hope some people find some help there. And piggybacking off of the mental health conversation, we do talk about a lot of mental health topics on here, and we do cover a lot of possibly triggering topics. So I want to give a quick trigger warning. None of these topics are meant to be triggering. They're just a way for us to express ourselves as artists. And if they are triggering, we apologize. And anybody, whether it's an artist that's on the show or an audience member, is free to click out at any time, and we will not judge you for that. Like I said, this is a judgment-free place. So that's my trigger warning, and I hope nothing triggers you too badly, and we can get on with the show. One more thing is, you can donate to us on Cash App, on Venmo, and at PayPal. All the same tag, Lostboy420x. Anything from 10 cents to $10 really helps. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever, tonight, drop them down below. We will answer them live on air right now. So with that being said, let's get to our first artist tonight. He's been on the show once before. His name's David Buford, aka Total Poetry. He's a poet. He's a digital marketing director. And he does a bunch of other things that I'm just now learning about. You can follow him on Facebook at Total Poetry and on TikTok at Total Poetry as well. And I'm going to play his flyer and get him up here.
Poetry is a gift, for that I will not boast, because in this life we must set aside our gifts and do what matters most. But oh, to dream, what a life, wouldn't it be grand, to make a life free from strife right from the palm of your hand. But these are things that only in dreams that one can understand. So until the day I find a way to draw such a plan, I'll be right here another year doing what I can.
Hey man, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Good, good. A little tired, but you know, I'm running off the caffeine and I'm here.
Same here, brother. Same here.
Hell yeah.
Yep. Just now got off work at 3 o'clock and went from work to work. So yeah.
Yeah. You're a very busy man. You're a very busy man. You were just talking about like backstage. You were talking about a lot of the stuff you do, and it sounds like you got your plate very, very full.
You know, I try to keep it full though, because it keeps me busy. Now I'm just trying to incorporate a gym membership into that. I already have a membership. It's just the dang going part. You know what I mean? And so
I feel you.
So I decided to dedicate 4 a.m. to that. So
I'm just trying. I just don't even know where the time, and I do way less things than you, and I can barely find time to do some push-ups or like in my own living room or something like that. You know, it's a struggle. It's definitely a struggle, but you got to take care of yourself, or you can't take care of anyone else, especially at a professional job. And part of being mentally stable, unfortunately, is keeping yourself physically fit and physically healthy. Geez. You know, so it's an important part of life.
Yes,
but,
yes, it is.
It's hard to find the time. But I appreciate you making time to come here, man. And
man, of course,
do
man.
this and do this. Yeah. Super appreciate it. So I mean, you've been on here before. But if you want to talk a little bit about yourself, what you do, tell us. I mean, there's new audience members, there's new guests, so by all means.
So so I do marketing for a lot of different poets. I also do marketing for, you know, a lot of people, you know, I guess inside the background, you know, and a lot of people wouldn't actually know that I do marketing for them, you know, for those people, because it isn't something that I actually announce, right? But above and beyond that, I'm also marketing for about 17 to 25 different businesses at once, and then when that I'm not on my phone doing that, and building landing pages and so on and so forth, you know, doing lead generation and so on and so forth. When that I'm not doing that, I work security, and then I also own my own business, and I'm starting up 2 other businesses at the same exact time. And so it's definitely a challenge, you know. Trying to keep everything in balance and time management for everything, and it's just it's a headache.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel you. I mean, that is so much more. I don't even know where you even find the hours in the day, because I have my one job, which is admittedly I work 50 plus hours a week, but I have my job, my family, and my show, and that is already like, just for me, it's so much finding the time to wrap it all in and keep it like, you know.
Let's not also forget, okay, I'll have anywhere between 100 to 135 people that send me a request for me to write them a poem a week.
God damn, bro. You're fucking.
And so, so it's like, you know, I spend more time on this device, but I can do more things on this phone than I can do on a freaking computer. You know,
Yeah.
but that's 10 years of marketing knowledge. You
Yeah,
know.
man, that's absolutely insane. And I mean, I've like I said, I've known you for a couple years, and I've seen a lot of the things you've created, like digitally, marketing wise. And one thing you were talking about earlier is you definitely have gotten better. Like the designs
Oh
you
yeah.
were showing me a couple years ago versus the designs you were showing me now are far beyond what I expected when I originally sent you. What we were talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're definitely great at what you do, and the speed and efficiency at which you do it is ridiculous. It's almost inhuman.
Well, well, the thing is, again, I mean, so imagine, right? Imagine you work marketing, right? Okay, and somebody calls you up and they're like, "Hey, Dylan, check it out. So, we do apartment complexes. We're going to be renting out apartment complexes. We need you to find us 750 people in an hour." Okay, you know, and it's like you're like, "Okay, how am I going to find 750 people in 1 hour?" Okay, I don't worry about that.
Catch me at the bar, fucking buying people shots in an hour. I'll be either passed out in the bar or everybody in that bar will be my friend.
I'm like 750 people, no problem. What neighborhood? What are you looking for? You're looking for people that have a lot of money, people who don't have a lot of money. What type of job? What type of career? What type of income? Let me know these specifics, and yeah, I'll have you 750 people in 1 hour.
That's a lot.
But
That's a lot. Without
but
without alcohol, I don't see how that's
but
possible.
but but because I can do things like that, I make enough money to be able to survive this freaking, you know how this whole thing is becoming overwhelming as far as prices go. You know what I mean? So I feel I feel better, um, owning my own business and also working, so that way I'm making enough money to be able to provide for my family and so on and so forth. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, definitely. I get that. I get that. Um,
yeah, because
but I
because
mean, yeah,
again, I'm out
you
here I'm
what
out
you
here in
do is
California.
great.
I'm out here in California, where it is right now the land of raised prices. You know what I mean? Okay. Yeah, it is the land of raised prices. So gas prices are
Yeah.
through the roof, rents through the roof, everything's high. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was saying a little bit earlier at the beginning of the podcast, like I know everyone's fucking struggling right now.
oh yeah.
And it's so hard. It's so hard. Everything's so hard financially, and it ruins your mental health. It does. I get it. I get it. It forces you to have multiple jobs, and it forces you to do a lot of that shit.
Absolutely.
But absolutely, man. But anyway, what you're gonna be sharing some poetry with us tonight,
Yes, sir.
right?
I have a poem called "The Truth."
The truth.
The
All
truth.
right. Well, the truth is that I'm broke. So except for in the soul. I have richness of the soul.
You hear that, guys? Remember. Okay, it's Lost Boy 420 X. Do not forget the X at Cash App. Okay.
Let's go. We got
All right.
Mr. Promoter over here. All right, what's your
Okay.
piece called again?
It's called "The Truth."
The truth. All right.
The Truth.
I'll drop myself out of here and get that up there for you.
All right. The truth. She cooks, she cleans, she watches kids, a spoon, a fork, a pan, a lid. She wakes the kids and gets them dressed. She puts her sanity to the test. Hour by hour, she scrubs the floor, the living room, the kitchen, the bathroom, and more. The kids, sorry, the kids take a nap and give her a break. She uses this time to mow and rake. The kids are up and ready to play. The house she cleans starts to decay. Her husband is home without delay. And what do you think that he would say? "I see you managed to clean the yard today." And that's the truth.
Damn, that was short, sweet,
It was short.
simple, short and simple, simple but sweet. I
Yeah.
like it. Can you tell me? Can you tell me a little bit about it and when
So,
you wrote it?
so I wrote the poem. So my mom and dad used to argue a lot whenever I was a kid, right? My dad would come home from work and he'd be screaming at my mom about the house isn't clean, or so on and so forth, and we as kids would be helping my mom try to clean up before he got home, you know so that way he wouldn't be yelling and screaming and whatever, but that was just who that he was. He always had to have something to actually complain about. Anyway, but yeah, he would. And so that was what actually inspired me to write that poem, because it's like here you have three kids, right? They end up taking a nap, you get everything cleaned up, and now these kids are up and they're tearing everything apart, right? Okay, everything that you just now had clean, okay, and the only other thing that you actually managed to do besides cleaning all day long was you managed to mow and rake. And then he gets home and says, I see you managed to clean the dang yard today, right?
Right.
After you've been busting your ass all day long, cleaning the entire house, but it doesn't show because you have kids that are destroying everything just as fast as you actually clean it.
Yes, I have seen this all too many times.
Yeah.
Oh, so many times. Yes. Uh,
So
I know.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyone who has kids or has ever lived with kids or has grandkids or nephews or nieces or whatever, everybody knows this.
Oh yeah.
It's like you pick something up and then you go to the bathroom and you come back and it's like a bomb exploded and you're like, didn't I just wasn't there? Where did this shit come from? What the fuck is going on? Yeah,
I
like
told
anybody who's been around kids knows.
I
Anybody
told
knows.
my son and my daughter, I said, listen, it starts with one sock. Okay? Starts with one sock. You allow one sock to be on the floor, one piece of trash, whatever it is, it starts with one. Okay. I said, and then all of a sudden, it builds up. It becomes this and that and this and that and them and those and right. And I said, and then next thing you know, your entire room's a disaster. I said, but it started off with one sock because it was clean. Was clean, you know.
Well, here's the thing it's just they don't and adults are guilty of it too, but
Oh yeah, of course.
they don't pick up one thing before moving on to the next thing. And I
Yeah.
mean, don't get me wrong, I don't fucking either. A lot of the time, I won't. I'll have my fucking this whole studio setup that I have going on. I say that I'm gonna like shut it down before I go to bed, but sometimes I'll just be too tired right after the show. I'll just go to bed and I'll worry about it tomorrow and like leave my mic and everything all set up. It's a bad example, but like adults do it too.
Well, the thing is I'm the worst person when it comes to multitasking. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Whenever I multitask, it's a good way for me to mess up five things at once.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. However, I am one of those people that whenever I'm doing something and I'm working on that one thing, if you come and bother me and then I have to leave from doing that one thing to do something else, it's going to be hard for me to get back to where that I was at.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely get that. I have ADHD, so I'm always all over the place. That's why it's so hard to, even, do that. Like
I'm streamline focused, bro. Like laser beam focused. Like I need to hurry up and get this done, and then I can move on to that and that and that and that and that. But I cannot do this and then do that and do this and that and that and that. No.
Right. No, I get what you mean. Yeah. I'm gonna bring our other artists up here and see what they thought about your piece. See if they got any questions, comments for you about you or what you do. Yeah, what'd you guys think?
I really enjoyed the poem. I'm a big fan of
Okay.
rhyming poems myself. That's what I started writing. That's what I still continue to write as far as poetry goes. So I always do appreciate a solid rhyming poem. Um, like Dylan was saying, very short but very to the point. It's evocative. It brings up a lot of. It's very picturesque, but also brings up a lot of emotions with it. I feel it's a very solid piece.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It your explanation of it actually brought back memories because I've got 10 kids. I've got 5 boys.
Okay.
I have 5 girls, and they're all grown. And I remember my kids were so bad about keeping the house clean,
Mhm.
and conversations was like, "We have to keep this house clean. We have to keep this house clean." And after it so-called got clean to the best of their ability, it just took like 20 seconds, and then was like, "What?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like you said, where did this come from? I was just in here, everything was fine, and now it's like almost back to battlefield."
Yeah. That's
So yeah,
crazy.
that brought back memories. It really did. That was pretty cool. I liked it.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, and I liked what Joe was saying about. I definitely liked your rhyme scheme, and I also liked the imagery and how I could. It was a clear picture in my head. You definitely painted a very good picture. Um,
Well,
with your
I
words.
only write rhyming poems. I've tried not to, but doesn't really work out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I go through phases. I think there's phases where it's just all rhyming, and then there's phases where I'm writing like more spoken word kind of
I
style.
can't do that. My mind automatically rhymes it.
A trick is just stop listening to music so much and start watching uh stand up poetry or TED Talks. Honestly, TED Talks
Okay.
help a lot.
Okay.
Because I feel like a lot of TED Talks are very, very poetic, and very like have the. I mean, a lot of them are done by spoken word artists, by spoken word poets and whatnot.
Yeah.
But TED Talks, at least a lot of the ones that I've seen, where they talk about life or they talk about their personal experiences or things like that. Um, it's a lot like this show where it has a very like personal, poetic nature to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, watching a lot of podcasts helped me with my not only my performance, but like just how I thought about a poem and in terms of like speaking to an audience.
Okay.
Uh, I guess it helps in terms of like how you think about things in speaking to an audience and how you relate your personal experiences to other people. I guess is what I'm trying to say. But
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
I think
Yeah.
another good resource would be it's an old YouTube series from like over a decade ago. It's called Shots of Awe, and it's Jason Silva, who's like a YouTube guy. He's gone on to make documentaries and stuff, but it's like 2 3 minute long videos where he just kind of rhapsodizes about technology or the universe or different little intellectual things that he just spends a couple minutes on. And it's very poetic. Like he gets carried away with it, and it's very
Okay.
poetic language. So that could also be something to
okay.
look at and try
Yeah,
to
that's cool.
figure
Yeah,
out
Cool.
I'm gonna
Thank
have
you.
to have
universe.
Thank
you.
you. I
I'm gonna
appreciate
have
that.
to have you send
Yeah,
that to me. Send me the name of that or whatever. I don't I don't know where my pen or my. I usually have like a pen and a pad. I'm slacking today,
I'll
but
send them a
yeah.
Facebook message.
Cool. But yeah, dude. We really appreciate you sharing that with us, though it was short. I can't wait to hear your next
Well,
one.
well,
And
I memorized it in what, like a minute or less.
yeah, that was impressive. That was impressive, man. That was very impressive. When you said backstage that you were like, give me a minute. I'm gonna memorize a poem. Just give me a minute. And you literally meant a minute. It was
Yeah.
60 seconds. Like we
Yeah.
had 60 seconds till the camera start rolling, and then you came with it. So that
Yeah.
was hella impressive, man. I appreciate that. Um, I'll catch you again in a few minutes for your next piece. All right.
Okay, cool. Sounds good,
All right,
man.
cool. All right, guys. That being said, that is going to bring us to our second artist of the night. He is new on the circle. He just had a little input, obviously. But I'm going to introduce him. His name is Joe Zielinski. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. He's a writer, a poet, and a performer. You can follow him on TikTok at True False Prophet, or on Instagram at Poetry Hugger or Poetry_Hugger. Also on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at the same tag, Poetry_Hugger. He's been published in multiple anthologies. In 2021, he published his debut chapbook called Nondescript Other Such. He's also been the first place best writer and second best for the PGH City Papers in Pittsburgh, which I'll let him talk to you more about that. Aside from writing, he also acts, makes music, comedy, spoken word. He does a lot of it, and you can find all of it on his handles that I just named, but mostly on his Instagram account. And that being said, I'm going to play his flyer and get him up here.
How's it going?
Hey man, what's up? How you doing?
Great. Excited to be a part of this. Definitely interested in connecting with like-minded people and sharing some art and putting it out into the world. So this is super cool. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to have you. It's definitely cool. Thank you for joining us. Like I always say, like we are super busy, and we were just me and David were just talking about it. Everybody's super busy, so I appreciate you for taking the time to do this.
Absolutely. You mentioned working. I've been working a ton. Currently, I'm a preschool teacher, so I've been doing that since July. I've been in education before. I used to work with like special needs kids at a local high school and elementary school, but this is the youngest I've worked with, which is a challenge in and of itself. But it's still somewhat familiar, so it's very fulfilling. But definitely looking to do something that's a little bit more lucrative financially.
Right.
But this is a good way to kind of keep keep the money flowing while I find something a little bit more stable.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. And but I mean, yeah, there's something to be said for, there's financially smart decisions, and then there's like what kind of makes you feel good and what you feel like is worth doing. And no, I definitely appreciate your work in it sounds like you're familiar with the mental health community and a lot of that. And I appreciate your work with special needs. And I have I think there's quite a few guests on here that work. I believe at least two that come to mind right now that I've had on here that also work with special needs kids. One of our very frequent artists, he actually lives in Trinidad. He's a Trinidad school teacher in special education and special needs and stuff like that. But I really appreciate your work in that. So thank you. But yeah, if you want to talk a little bit, obviously I introduced you, but if you want to talk a little bit about your writing and your work and your performing and whatnot.
Sure. So I'm from Pittsburgh, PA. I went to school at Slippery Rock University, which is just about like an hour north of Pittsburgh. I studied creative writing there. That's also where I met my wife, Brenna. In Pittsburgh, last year I was named Best Local Writer by Pittsburgh City Paper. And then that same year, last year, I was also named Second Best Poet. I came in second place for poetry the year before. So hopefully this current year is finally first place. But it's just really cool to be recognized at all. There's a lot of talent in the city, and luckily Pittsburgh is finally starting to have like its literary scene be recognized. Like comedy and music and theater have always kind of been the staples culturally and artistically of Pittsburgh, but now there's more literary events, which I feel um, is a great thing for not just writers, but for anybody else who enjoys the arts. I feel like it's a very um, underserved artistic medium.
Yeah, no, that's really good, man. And honestly, and I feel like I've talked about this before, but when I first got into poetry and like first started watching, there's a YouTube channel called Button Poetry where a lot of the biggest stand up poetry artists or what spoken word, whatever you want to call them, get do their work. And that for a while, Button Poetry was like the only big media platform for poetry and this kind of media. And I feel like not just in like Pittsburgh and Chicago and those big cities, but it's just becoming slowly more of a less of a niche thing that's kind of like made fun of or whatever, and more looked at and like respected as an actual art form. And it's like, I don't know why it hasn't been all along, because if you take any fucking rock song or any rap song, well, maybe not any rap song, but any good rap song, and you take out the beat, like that's poetry. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
a poem if you take out the beat. But it hasn't been respected like music, or even like books. I mean, poetry is more of a niche thing than fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
and science fiction. Everybody's into fantasy and science fiction nowadays, but I like that poetry is coming into the limelight and getting its time to shine, and I'm trying to help it do that a little bit. The show is small, but it's growing slowly but surely.
And it's great to have platforms and resources like this show to help do that, and tremendous work on your end for being a conduit for getting poetry recognized in a larger capacity. But yeah, it's there's a lot of talent in Pittsburgh. Um, a lot of new places opening up, a lot of different opportunity for the literary arts. So it's exciting just to see how it's evolving just so rapidly in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I like the word you use, conduit, um, because I've often said that like we are kind of as poets, we're kind of like a conduit for just things in the universe and things in the world. We see things, we take it in, we absorb it, and then it's our job as like artists to put it out there in our own words and speak our own truths and messages, and take the things we absorb and put them out there. We're kind of conduits, in a way. So I like that word. It's um but yeah, I mean, I think that this day and age is the biggest time for anything independent, like a podcast or independent music or self-publishing. It's the biggest time for that kind of thing. I mean, you can get famous on TikTok right now. It's the biggest time for anything self-made and independent. I think podcasts they're the new radio, and they're the biggest thing. They're really good for our culture because it gives people a way to freely speak their truth, just sitting down in a chair having a calm conversation where they're not being instigated by anybody else in the comment section or this and that and blah blah blah, and just really sit down and have a calm conversation and speak their truth, without being controlled by any type of big media platform. And yeah, podcasts are really the best thing for that. Um, so I'm just I'm doing my part. I'm doing my piece.
I agree. It's very interesting to see how big the independent thing has gone, because it's always been there, but now it's become more of a mainstream thing, or a path a lot of people are now starting to recognize and feel that it's legitimate, because now you have, like, in music, a lot of already established artists who've reached the end of their contracts, who are like, I already have like a dedicated fan base and a way to get this out into the world. I'm going to just do everything without the label, without all of these people telling me what to do and how to do it. And once
Right.
you have those people kind of setting the example, I think there's going to be a big push for people to kind of just do things on their own terms. And I think it's going to very radically affect the art that's made and how people interact with it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I mean, there's just there 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 is a lot of artists that are doing that now. I mean, obviously the biggest one that comes to mind. I mean, she's been the biggest artist this year is Taylor Swift. She's on like every headline everywhere. You can't go anywhere without seeing her name or face or whatever. But that's just something she's doing is because she, had all of her stuff stolen. Is she's remastering it and putting it out as Taylor's version, which
Mm.
is absurd because it should have come out as Taylor's version in the first place.
Right.
But I think you're right. Once people start following her lead and doing that, the scene will change in the whole industry, not just music, but writing and all forms of art for sure. But speaking of art, you're going to be sharing some art with us tonight.
Yeah. Sorry. My primary genre I work in is creative nonfiction. So I have 2 CNF pieces. They were actually recently published in Slab, which is Slippery Rock University's creative writing magazine. I had tried to get in, like they don't let students submit work, so I had to wait until after I graduated to start submitting stuff. And then just last year, they finally accepted something. So they accepted 2 of my pieces, and I'm going to be reading both of them. But the first one is called Haft Ass, and that's spelled HAFT, like the handle of an axe.
Hell
It
yeah!
starts like
All
that.
right, cool. I'm gonna drop myself out of here.
Gotcha. Good thing Home Depot has self-checkout, Sloppy J remarked. The rest of us flanking him roared with laughter and cheers as we wove around our newly purchased axe like a bunch of psychotic lumberjacks. Nearby employees were probably traumatized by possible scenarios that floated through their minds, seeing a gaggle of adolescent assholes with something sharp. This wasn't the first time we bought dangerous knickknacks either. Fireworks, knives, blow-dart guns, explosives, machetes, you name it, all were staples of our arsenal to combat boredom. Buying another weapon was just par for the course. Our purchase was warranted by us happening upon an old computer monitor on one of our typical circuits around a shopping center that housed a Target, GameStop, and a miscellany of other businesses. Since it was clearly non-operational and well beyond repair, we figured the most constructive activity involving the computer would be us destroying it. We chose an abandoned Sam's Club parking lot to be the site for sacrifice. As is custom, we branded the weapon and marker, Half-Ass, named mainly in reference to the handle of an axe, but also as a nod to doing things half-assed, the way we lived life. We took turns taking swings and venting frustrations, passing the deadly instrument like a relay baton. Glass shattered, plastic buckled, and electronics became splintered from the force. Each powerful blow turned the computer into a mess of parts. After our slaughter, I was elected to hold on to Half-Ass. Sadly, I stowed it away with assorted street signs and other odd items from our adventures, where it's collected dust ever since.
There's Mjolnir, and then there's Half-Ass. I like that, man. That was dope. The axe became a legend by the end of that. It was like I love how the story was like it first of all, it reminded me a lot of me and my friends and some of the stupid shit we've done. And it gave that very like when you watch like a movie like American Pie or something like that, where it's just about a bunch of friends doing some stupid shit. It gives you that feeling of like excitement and youth. Which I'm 22, I am youthful, but it gave me, you know what I mean? It gave me
Right.
that kind of teenage feeling again. So I like that, and I also like how it was kind of like a almost like a folklore. It was like a tale about like this axe became like in my head by the end of that story, it became like an object of folklore. Like there's Mjolnir, and then there's fucking Half-Ass. I like that. That's like, yeah, and they're like he was like selected to hold it, and I just felt like he was the worthy one,
Right.
I like that. I was and your imagery, I was following along the whole time. Like it like I said, it was like a movie. It was like a movie in my head. I really like that, man. That was
Oh, thank
awesome.
you.
So this is just, is it part of something, or is that the
That's it. It's a standalone piece.
okay,
Pretty
cool.
short. Initially written years back whenever I was working at a grocery store as a cashier, and I would always just spend my entire shift like writing stuff down on the receipt paper, so I'd have like scrolls of stuff like I was some monk. But it was one of the things. Like I would sometimes like print out a piece of paper. I'm like, all right, I have this much. I got to fill it from top to bottom. No idea what I'm going to write, but I'm going to write something, and then that was
Yeah,
one of the things I wrote that day.
I'm I'm an assistant store manager, and we have these slips that we're supposed to write important information on, like the amount of money that we have in our drawer or whatever, right? And we have a stack of them, and you can always print more, but they go missing oddly fast when I'm there. And it's because I'll take a slip and I'll just jot down a line for a poem, or I'll just have like a stack of them in my back pocket, or in my wallet. In my wallet is just this crumpled mess of like, or yeah, like little receipts that come out of the register. Like if a customer doesn't want their receipt or whatever, I'll just keep it, and I'll write something down on the back of it or whatever. Yeah, yeah. You got to do what you got to do. I'll fucking write on a napkin if I have to.
Absolutely. You can't stop the ideas once they start coming.
No, that was a cool piece, especially for something that's just like a standalone, and it's a full story, and it creates a legend, and it's an awesome piece, man. That's definitely an awesome piece. I like that. I
Thank
really
you.
like that. I want to see what everybody else thought of it. I'm gonna bring these guys up here. Oh, we got our surprise guest in the building. I dropped this boy the link, and I said, "Doors open, don't knock." And he walked right in.
Well, yeah, I
Were you
mean,
able to
shit.
catch it? Were you able to catch his piece?
No, I've been having connection issues, but like I think I got it solved. What the problem
You're
is,
good.
in this block of my house, it just doesn't work. But over here, it's fine. It's fine. I figured
All
it
right.
out. I'm
All
sorry
right.
I couldn't hear your piece. I bet it was amazing.
No
You're
worries.
good,
Glad you
man.
got your stuff figured out.
You, David, what'd you think?
Man, so that piece like had my head moving, right? So on like one end, it's like it seems like somebody who's like trying to get rid of technology, right? But then you know beating up a dang computer, right? But on the other hand, a lot like Dylan said, it's like building this like superhero almost. You know what I mean? Like you're just like passing the dang torch to the next guy, and then that guy just kind of like fells it, just sets sets it aside and doesn't even actually try, and you're like I want it to continue. I want to figure out what that guy does. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's just like awesome piece, bro.
Thank
Awesome
you.
piece.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I liked it a lot. I could hear that again. Not a problem. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Shameless plug here. If you want to hear it again, this is recorded, and in a couple days it will come out. The audio version will come out on all other platforms. But if you want to go watch it tonight, it'll be on YouTube and Facebook. So
Cool.
yeah, if you want to hear any of our pieces again, make sure you go check that out. And I'll send you the link in Messenger too if you wanna hear that.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you, dude. That was super awesome, and I can't wait to hear what else you got for us. I'll catch you again in a
I
few
would say
minutes.
I can't wait to see the other piece because I'm really upset I missed out because I heard all the things about the first press writer thing, so I'm really upset. So I can't wait to go back and see it.
Oh, thank you.
Hell yeah, man. Well, we already got one view then. All right, I'm gonna drop you guys out of here, and I'm gonna bring that's gonna bring us to, if I can talk. That's going to bring us to our third artist tonight. She goes by the name Nasira. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. She's an author and poet. She's got 6 books out now on Amazon. A 3-part series called the Kidra books, a book called My Beloved Curse, and a book called Belonging. And you can follow her on Instagram at I'm just gonna spell it and I'll let her pronounce it. That's MZSTEZ to the pen. THAPEN. I believe that's on Instagram. If I butchered that, I'm so sorry. And you can also follow her on Facebook at the author Nasira Stewart, or on TikTok at Camila Stewart 55. And I'm gonna play her flyer and get her up here. That music is
Hey.
such a vibe.
Yeah, it does.
Hey, how you
It's cool.
doing?
I'm fine. So
Just fine, huh?
the one that you couldn't pronounce is actually Mistress to the Pen.
Okay,
when you
yeah.
look
Well,
at that-
it was spelled weird, and that's what I thought it was at first, but I wasn't sure. Um, 'Cause
Yeah, you're right.
All right, cool. But yeah, it's good to have you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. How
Right.
you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine. This is a great experience. It really is. I mean, the environment is so warm and so helpful and peaceful, and it really the vibe is just really great. And I'm really up on vibes. You got to have that right aura for me. And this
Absolutely.
is fantastic. This is good.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean that's mainly what I try to do. That's kind of what in my mind sets my show apart mainly from others, is that it's a very relaxed, chill vibe. And I just try to make it feel like you're just hanging out in your living room with a couple friends, because I mean, I'm in my living room, I'm in my comfy chair, and that for me sets my vibe. So I'm able to get, I got one of my best friends, Brandon, um, here producing for me. I'm sitting here, and I'm just hanging out, and so that sets my vibe. So I'm able to give a relaxed, calm, chill vibe to you guys. And I mean, honestly, like we were talking earlier about my life being all hectic and shit, is no matter what's going on in my life, when I sit down in this chair, like it all just kind of goes away. It's a very good place to just kind of clear your head and just vibe out.
Yeah, it's important to have that kind of space for yourself where you can just pull away from everybody else. When I'm in this room, I work permanently at home. So like on this side of my room is where my computer is, where my work area is. But then on this side where I am here, this is where all my creative stuff is going on. And when I'm on the computer and I'm working on my novels, I completely zone completely out. I'm not aware of the time. If my characters are in a restaurant, I hear subtle background conversations. I hear the waiters going in and out of the doors from the back kitchen to the front. I hear dishes. I hear traffic outside. I hear glasses tingling. I hear laughter. I hear all of that, and I get immersed in what I'm doing. And I actually shut everything out other than what I'm working on. And I hear all of that. And I completely zone. I could sit here and write all day and not have a problem. And I've done it where I've started like around 3:00 in the afternoon. The next thing I know, my husband's coming in going, hey, you come to bed? It's after 10 o'clock. I'm like, what? It seemed like I just sat down.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely had those times where I just like, uh, I mean, I'm kind of like a fucking. I'll get zoned in, but if you snap me out of that, like sometimes I'll get like a little bit irritated, and I won't have like the best, like, because my mind, like, just nothing, like you were saying, nothing else exists. And so like it's kind of like I'm in a video game and you just like yank the plug, but my mind's still in it. It's very disorienting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule with your creative stuff and your work and everything you got going on to be on here. Um, yeah, it's like I said, I try to make it the coolest, chillest environment that I can and make people feel as comfortable as I can so that they like being here. So
Yeah, you do that. It's cool. It really is. It's cool.
thanks, I appreciate it. So I mean, I introduced you, but if you want to talk a little bit about yourself and what you do and whatnot, by all means.
I was born in Buffalo, New York, and I was raised in California. My father, his job is what moved us from Buffalo to Cali. My father was a wrestler. And when WWF decided to host their wrestling bouts at the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles, we had to go. So I graduated from LA High School. I graduated from USC. I nursed for 23 years, had 10 kids. Um, I dropped out of nursing, and um, about the time that I started writing my first novel, I needed to be more with the kids because we had a death in the family, and it caused me to have to be more with the kids. I lost my husband to a murder, and never got it solved, and never saw the kids. I was pregnant with the twins at the time, and he never saw them. But you get through that. I was a widow for 16 years. And I met my current husband, and the way I met him was really weird. I had lost my mother the year that I met him. And before she passed, she was so happy that I had left LA and I moved to Vegas, saying that maybe I would have a better start. Maybe I would, find someone. And I told her, I said, well, unless God points him out, he don't work like that. It ain't going to happen. When I started talking with him, it was a conversation that we had from like 6 o'clock in the evening until 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was at home by myself. And after I hung up from talking with him, I heard my mother's voice as clearly as I hear yours, telling me that that was going to be my husband. And we've been married for 17 years now. So in addition to being an author, I'm also a certified life coach. I went back to school about 2.5 years ago and got certified in life coaches, and I specialize in relationships, and not just personal relationships, but also relationships that you have with yourself, with your family. I've helped women a lot in relationships with themselves. I've helped a lot of people, understand that if you don't take care of yourself emotionally, spiritually, physically, you can't have a relationship with anybody else, because the best relationship you can have is the one with yourself. And you also have to learn how to deal with that enemy, that inner enemy voice that you have that's between your own ears, and how to learn how to shut that out so that you could be more progressive with your emotions than anything else. And I get a lot of joy from life coaching. I really do. My writing, though, yeah, I could talk about that all day. Yeah, I could talk about that all day. The Kidra series that I'm most proud of, I went to a show, because where I lived at in LA, I lived behind Paramount Studios. So I was always at the Arsenio Hall show. The guy that I was with at the time, he worked there, so we always had free tickets to go. So one night, Arsenio was there with Eddie Murphy, and he was talking about, we need another Black vampire movie. And they were talking about it because he was talking about having Biz Markie play Ringfield. And it was this big joke. And when we left there, I said, let me look into that. So I started studying the vampire lore. We don't have any representation in the vampire genre as far as when you say Black vampires, the first thing everybody thinks of is Blackula.
What about Blade? What about Blade?
Blade is a dynamic comic character. He really is. And that's about, besides Blade and Blackula and a vampire in Brooklyn, that's about as close as you're going to get to Black Simila and vampirism. My story with Kidra is completely different. I had to do a lot of research to make sure that I could claim that, because nobody has ever written a story about a blood-born daughter of Dracula from Africa. Nobody has. And to put that,
sounds unique.
and to put that in a series was actually, I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of it. And it sold over 12K between the US and the UK and Canada. So yeah, and it's still selling. I'm still selling.
I don't want to blow people's mics out, but or earphones out, but yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
cool.
That's amazing. And I mean, first of all, there's just so much to unpack there, but I really just want to say I love how you have used your own personal tragedies and your own pain and suffering to help other people. And like I was talking about before, that kind of conduit thing is, you're taking that pain and you're suffering and you're putting it back out into the world, but not negatively. You're shifting the energy. You're taking that pain and suffering and you're teaching people about it and teaching people how to manage that. And it's kind of like an energy converter that converts, in one form of energy into another form of energy. Like, I mean, a car engine does that, that's kind of the way I look at it is, you're taking this negative energy and this tragedy and this pain, and you're turning it from a negative to a positive. And I really appreciate you for using what you've been through to help other people. I mean, I can't even imagine the loss. I've been through, quite a bit of loss myself. I can relate to one thing you said. My mom has passed away, and I can very much relate to hearing her voice, post-mortem, clear as day, in my head, on many occasions, to this day. And I genuinely believe, like, we were talking about energy and how it kind of changes form. That's one of the laws of physics, is it doesn't dissipate, it just changes form. And human beings are energy. I just think that when we die, whether we turn into a ghost or whatever you want to call it, our energy converts into something else, and we're still here. We're just in a different form, I guess. But regardless, I just, a lot of what you said really hit home for me, and just struck personal chords that of things that I've been through, and I just want to applaud you for not letting it crush you and using it to make you stronger, because that's what being human is all about. If something doesn't kill you, it all it can do is make you stronger. Humans can survive anything as long as our heart's still beating.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That is true. I always say that when you lose someone, there's never, people seem to think that there's this type of timeline that you're supposed to adapt to, where you get to the point where you're not as hurt when you lose someone. And I tell people that's not true. That will happen for you when you're ready, whenever you're ready for that to happen. And the best way for it to happen is for you to learn how to make friends with that pain, because that friend is always going to show up. They're always going to sit around for a little while before they leave. And you have to be able to make friends with it, because that's the only way that you can not have it devastate you, if that's the right word, over a long period of time. Because once you make a friend with it, then you expect it. Because there's always going to be an instance where somebody's going to say something that you hear someone say that the person that you lost said. Someone's going to laugh like them. Someone's going to wear something that they would wear. Someone's going to do an action that you used to seeing that person do, and it brings you back to that pain. But if you make friends with it, then it's an acknowledgement And I always say that when stuff like that happens, that's your loved one reaching out to you, letting you know that you're okay.
Yeah.
It happens.
I suppose that's how you go about having 10 kids. I mean, what having one kid is painful enough. Some people don't even want to go get a second tattoo. You've definitely become friends with the pain, and I
Yeah.
mean, and that's you know, in some senses that's kind of a metaphor for, you know, the art that you create is, you know, it took a lot of pain and a lot of effort to bring 10 beautiful lives into the world, and who knows how many poems you've written, and they're all kind of like your children in a way, you know what I mean? You've suffered, and you've put your blood, sweat, and tears into these creations of yours, and now they live on, you know, past you. They're your legacy, your children and your writing,
Yeah.
and that's beautiful. That's what I mean, is just as much as we can as artists and as people, just use our experiences and what we've been through to like make a lasting impression on the world.
Mhm.
I think that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Um, so I really appreciate that. Um, but you're gonna be sharing some of your artwork with us tonight. What do you got for us?
This is a poem that I wrote. It was really based off a comment that a gentleman had said when I was in the club one night and I came home. I started writing it on the napkin when I was in the club. And then I got home and I typed it up. I haven't read it in a while, so I'm going to read from it. But it makes a lot of sense.
All right.
It really
What's this
makes a
one?
lot of
What's this one called?
This is called Pussy is a Dangerous Thing.
Damn right it is. I'm gonna drop myself out of here and let you get to it.
Okay. It must have been a shocker when one of the many long line of men found out that they'd been had by the pussy. Pussy is a dangerous thing. How many wars have been fought? Paradises have been lost. Corporations crumble. Make all the worst killers humble, all because of the pussy. I did it for you. An innocent man cried out as he was led off to a life of cubic centimeters. Weary and forgone, you know he'd be worried about the crime that he committed. Not true. You'd be wrong. He's worried because he knows that his pussy is gone. Pussy is a dangerous thing. Hooked up, tripped up in a whirlwind, headaches spin, anxiety when she's taking too long to come from the store, looking out of windows, listening to the familiar sound of the car door, checking the phone to see if it's on, asking himself, what is taking my pussy so long? Drive a man crazy, make a man lazy, catatonic like he was on chronic, ready to rip the world, know the pussy so well, acting like it when you go to jail, get cocked up in the situation. Even women face the nation and will go down on the shaved bush and flip the script if you get it twisted. In the pen, just like men that fail to stay clear of the pussy. Pussy is a dangerous thing. Even in the everyday, pussy is a powerful thing. You soap, you shower, your hair, the cologne you wear, your clothes, the reason why you rose in the morning, all for the sake of the pussy. It's a shame. It's a commodity, an advertisement. It produces and sells. With the right position and with the right hands, pussy will lead you to riches or take it away from you or make you start all over again. And it will be the same game by a different name, but it's one thing that will never change is that pussy is a dangerous thing. There is no moral to this story, no solution I can offer. You can't get around it and you can't do without it. You may go celibate, but it won't last long. Men say their nuts hurt if they wait too long. Heads up, all you young men who think you got game. You just don't know that pussy is a dangerous thing.
That's a fucking slow clap right there. God damn. Yo, first of all, and my man Cage C, I know he's gonna talk about this, but that fucking catatonic like you're on chronic line was insanity. That was awesome. And I mean, it The description of the waiting on text and looking out windows and just all that, it had me cracking up. From the very first line, I was hooked. Though the very first, I looked at Brandon, I was like, "Yo, where he realized he had been had by the pussy." Like from the first fucking line, I was like, God damn. Yeah, no, it was funny, but it was also introspective, and it was it gave a very like in a humor. I like that you did it in a humorous like kind of a serious thing in a humorous way.
Mhm.
And I love that it was a commentary on society without
Yeah.
being like too in your face and like, or a lot of commentary on society, especially when it comes to female empowerment or stuff like that. And a lot of and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but especially with poems that I've heard that involve those topics, it is sometimes it comes off sounding bitter. And I
Mhm.
understand why it sounds bitter. You know, just like I understand, you know, why people men making songs about how no one gives a fuck about men's feelings. I
Yeah.
understand how those come off bitter too. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's because we've dealt with these fucking problems for so long, and it's just like hard not to talk about it without sounding bitter. But I like that you did it in a humorous way, and especially after being harassed by someone at the club, and obviously being irritated and bitter about that, probably. And then you were able to write this humorous, funny thing. I like that. I really like that.
Thank you.
I'm gonna bring our other artists up here to see what they thought about it. What'd y'all think?
I think I know more about pussy now than I did before. That was crazy. That was crazy, dude. That was amazing. That was clean. That was ooh. I gotta like I could hear that again and still be all right with my life because that was just
Yeah, and
nice.
I
That was
mean
clean.
the rhyme scheme, bro.
I swear to God, Dylan already took it. Yeah, I was. I was gonna say something about that fucking chronic line. Oh, it was nice.
Going catatonic like he's on chronic. Oh my god.
That was an
Yeah.
absolutely wonderful, wonderful piece. I loved it. I
Thank you.
loved it.
To echo what Dylan was saying earlier, how it made all of these all this commentary in a very humorous and palatable way. It just made everything just made the message stick much more than and probably would have otherwise. It was a very good piece. I like the predominantly rhyming, the rhyme scheme, and then with like the little chorus because pussy is a dangerous thing is a very funny and insightful piece.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and
I appreciate that.
I like I like that it has a hook like a song, because pussy
Mhm.
is a dangerous to, and it keeps bringing you back around to the main concept, and it's like yeah, like he said, it's not only funny, but it is extremely palatable and just able. You're very message received, I guess, you know, and sometimes it's very hard to do that in poetry, especially when, like I said, it's about sensitive topics or that you know are irritated about, like, so, you know, some guys harassing you in the club and you want to write a poem that's like fuck you motherfucker on a fucking but like no, but hey, pussy is very dangerous thing is a very it's catchy. It's catchy, man. It grabs my attention. I really like that. Really like
Thank
that.
you.
Was
Um,
the whole thing on the napkin, or was just like did it start there and then morph over time, or
You know, I when I left the club, I actually took like 4 napkins with me, and I'm sitting in the car with my lights on, and I'm just writing, laughing and writing, and laughing and writing. And when I used up front and back and the inside of the napkins that I had, I hurried up, went home, and typed the whole thing up. And I was like, yeah, this is what that was all about. Because the dude would not leave me alone. Like, how many times can I tell you no? But then I understand as a female, I'm going to attract males because that's what the persona is all about. But it's also learning how to like, dude, I got you, you know, go sit down somewhere.
Go away.
Go sit down somewhere. So it's really recognizing the power that I have as a female, but also looking it through the male perspective instead of my own. And that's what I liked about it, because it didn't come off as a female kind of thing. It came off as a male kind of thing, like an explanation is why some men act the way that they do. And it's because I'm powerful. I got a pussy, I'm powerful. That's just the way that is.
You know what else is very powerful? Shit. If you next time you're in the class, if you just tell him you shit your pants, like he's not gonna want nothing to do, nothing. Just I gotta go. We got to code brown. We got a situation here. Get a man away from you like that.
Yeah, that would work.
Unless he's a real weirdo. And then you then you just better call the police.
Yeah. He's really weird. Yeah, you really gotta go. Yeah.
Oh,
but
man.
yeah, that was my idea, was to write it through a male point of view instead of a female point of view. Because we as women, we can complain about the things that we go through with certain men. And for me, that just wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to put out a better understanding of why men do what they do when they get with you, because it's all embalming. And I didn't want to make it that much feminine. I wanted to be an understanding is what I wanted from a male point of view. It worked. It actually worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, especially like I think the thing that worked the most is the examples of like, you know, waiting for text messages or looking out the window or things like that, because, you know, that's all things you do. And it's not, you know, it's not necessarily always just for sex. You know, it's like when you have a crush on someone, or I mean, even when you're just like waiting for like a really good friend to come over you haven't seen in a while, like but when you have, you know, a crush on someone or with a girl, like it's just, that's very relatable to me. That's the part that I found the most relatable, was the, you know, the checking the text messages and and that kind of thing. I love how you did that. You nailed that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for sharing that with us. We'll catch you again in a little bit for your next piece, and that is going to bring us to our surprise guest of the night, my man. What's up?
What's good, bro? What's good?
What you got for us tonight?
What do I got? I got a piece called Tour. It's schizophrenic music. So,
all right. Well, first off, we got some new audience members and we got some new guests here. So this is my man Cage C. He's been on the show multiple times. Fantastic artist, fantastic rapper and poet. And he kills it every time. You can find him on TikTok at CageC790, and he's gonna do the tour for us tonight, man.
dude, yeah, this one goes off, bro. I ain't gonna lie.
All right. I'm ready for it. I'm gonna drop myself out of here.
Bet. All right. This is just a tour of the way my brain works, like shattered glass enhanced to project holograms, to see myself third person in three versions instead of reflect internal monologue and confused anagrams. I stand tall against a wall you probably couldn't comprehend. I'm a fan of my own demise, like contortion rises and commotion waved in like the ocean, causing riptides to suck me in. This mad rush of adrenaline, talking in riddles, forcing static in my ear through a sneer. I'm not nice. I rise to lies for some conversations like manipulation. I enjoyed forced tears to the eyes. When people die, you'd see me laughing in disguise. It's another one. To fantasize is to bring alive. I strive to create, but patiently wait to a rhyme and lost thought bubbles to rise so I could feel in control to the motion that blisters like fire. It's my desire for satire. Are liars whose words never tire. They conspire with needles that read in milligrams, full of toxins to admire. I sit where the next willow stands with knife-engraved markings, to make room for the mistakes I've shoved in the dirt and forgot, but it lurks like venom coursing through wounds from a snake bite, and I always feel I might die soon. Depression's impression forced a lesson I can't take back, so I learned it from taking skin back. Like red ribbons, if you listen, you'd know. I wrestle sleepless nights with a champion's belt. I contemplate my fears but don't confront them. I think about how I could die tonight, but I see my children and steer clear of the fights. I have a fear of the frights, talking large, sick of using my psyche. I laugh at the sight, those thoughts hung up like a kite. These words that I write, hate spears and clamps these lures in tight. This pure insight, but beholds a future claim bright. My future sealed like a devious critter that's bitter. You didn't ask why, but because his brain bleeds a liter per liter, a meter per hour, tethered on malice. How has he stood so long through the battles he's lost? Rattled the earth per step like it's just a broken ladder. He sinks fangs like a devilish adder. If you're the enemy, then the amount of venom doesn't matter. I operate off the darkest matter. I mix it together like the philosopher's stone, so you best bet I have that immortal fever. Immaculate imagination spread far like contagions has my mortality severed. The totality of it is you seen three persons' perspectives. Read close, you'll see the connection. Verse changed when you ignored it the last second. My armor's not dented. Say what you want. My demeanor's demented. The space that I own, best believe I took it over. It's rented.
Holy fucking God, bro. But hold on. Hold up. I need a minute. I need a minute to process this. First of all, that shit was like a fucking. If anybody's been watching the show and watching your pieces, you had callbacks to like so many of your other fucking pieces. Like I caught the red ribbons line. And then
Yeah.
I loved how it was a metaphor of like, if you listened, you'd know, like if you listen to the last pieces, but also like, if you listen to me when I fucking talk about my feelings, you'd fucking know, like it was a double entendre. I fucking love that part. And yo, that fucking Philosopher's Stone bar.
You best believe I got that immortal fever. Yeah, bro.
Out of this. I was sitting here with my eyes closed, like fucking like absorbing it, listening to it, and then you fucking that Philosopher's Stone bar, and I was just like, woo!
Yeah.
Boy, got that immortal fever. God damn.
Hell yeah, bro. Hell yeah.
And that's something I love, man, is your metaphors and your punchlines out of this fucking world. And when I do this fucking podcast and I try to fucking listen and absorb all of it, it's so intricate and it's so complex and it's so it makes it so hard to really give a good feedback on the piece as a whole, because I want to break down each fucking bar, because each bar that you spit is a fucking, like, it's a poem in and of itself. Like for me, a poem doesn't have to have a certain number of words. All a poem has to do is have a concept and convey a feeling, and that's it.
Yep.
And have a clear, concise concept that makes you sit and think about whatever it is, and and conveys a certain feeling. And each of your fucking bars, each of your lines do that, and they're so complex and they're so intricate, and you don't sacrifice complexity for emotion either, or performance, or cadence. I mean,
I like that one.
In particular was excellently performed. The elevation in your voice as far as volume or aggravation, and then you brought it back down, and during the calmer lines, and it was altogether fantastic fucking piece, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Dylan. I appreciate you. And for everybody that doesn't know, every single piece, if you ever watch the show or if you ever go back and you see me on a show, all of my pieces are connected. If you were to put a lot of my pieces together, I could create an epic like Homer's The Odyssey. So I always have little Easter eggs in my music every time I put something down.
I like that. And that's something that, like, it really, I really, really, really like that. And that's something that I have started doing more and more in my own stuff, is like calling back to other stuff that I've written. Because like, that's my favorite thing to see in a movie, man. It's like, that's the guy from that other thing. That's the dude.
That's the dude. I know him.
Yeah, that's the guy that sat in that chair.
It all started with a poem that I wrote to myself, and it's literally called "To Myself." I put it on the show, but I've been writing forever, ever, right? So like, it's just crazy how far it's come to where I am now.
Yeah, man. I, I was watching. Me and Brandon were sitting here, and we had the fucking Lostboys channel pulled up on my YouTube on my TV, and we were watching like the first ever episode that you were on, which was the second ever episode we did, I think. And your progression from there is
It's
just
crazy.
insane.
I
I still stutter as much. I still fucking I'm still just as bad as the host, but y'all have improved as artists so much.
practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect.
Yeah,
I will
man.
sit. I sit there and like whenever you're like there's downtime between the songs, bro. I'm like rehearsing a verse over and over and over again. I do it all the time. Like I have so much music memorized that I don't even mean to memorize it.
Yeah, I do fucking Brandon must get so sick of it. He'll be like not even on show night. On show night, I'm ridiculous. I won't shut the fuck up. But even when it's not show night, it's like Wednesday night and we're just sitting there trying to have a beer. And he's like, dude, can you just shut the fuck up? He doesn't say that
No,
to me, but
Brandon.
like
No.
I can tell that's what I can tell that's what he's thinking. Like, will you just stop rapping and talking about podcasting for 5 fucking minutes so we can just enjoy this beer? Like I'm ridiculous about it. It's because it's like to me, I'm a word nerd. You know, like it's just like I'm a nerd. Like I could sit here and talk about fucking the new Deadpool and Wolverine movie and all the cameos it's gonna
I
have in it
can't
for
wait.
hours. I could make a whole podcast about that.
I swear to God, dude.
Same way I
I
could make a
can't
whole
wait.
podcast about talking about words and metaphors and how to put different rhyme schemes together and like to me that shit's interesting. You know, like that to me like the different things you can do with words and not even just with metaphors but with like your just your pronunciation. Like you had this one thing where you pronounced satire incorrectly, but you did it to rhyme with your current bar and it made complete sense and it was awesome. And it's like
I'm surprised you noticed that. That's hard to notice.
You can't rhyme orange with anything. Yeah, sure you can. 4-inch, door hinge, sorange.
Mm-hmm.
It's all how you like play with the word, and you do an excellent job at like molding words in. It's like Play-Doh. You make them fit how you want them to
You
fit.
remember that bar I had, bro, where I made uranium bars to build compactors? Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Bro, one day I can only hope to get even as close to like my metaphors as close to as complex and fucking. But I am doing a piece tonight that is at least
Amazing.
like,
I'll give you props. The piece you're doing is amazing.
I appreciate that. But yeah, I mean the piece I'm doing tonight is definitely a piece where I was actively thinking about like working on my metaphors, I guess, at the time. Like it was something that I was, because I go through phases where I work on different things, I'll spend more time working on my rhyme schemes, or I'll spend more time working on my performance and my cadence or whatever. But I mean, yeah, especially since I've met you and have you on, I've just been working so much more on like my metaphors and punchlines, because yours are just so out of this world.
Oh yeah, bro. Well, I appreciate it. And you know what? Practice makes perfect, and I know you're gonna get there. I know you will. I'm waiting. I'm waiting.
I appreciate it.
The
And
build up is gonna be phenomenal.
I can't wait to do some fucking features with you, bro. We got some songs to write for sure.
Dude, we
already got some of them like written a little bit, but yeah.
There's one we gotta do.
Hell yeah, man. I'm gonna bring these other artists up, see what they thought about you and your stuff. What you guys think?
Awesome.
I love the part when he said his armor is not dented.
My armor's not dented. I thought, yeah.
Yeah, that was bomb. That was bomb. That was.
The rhyme scheme was awesome. The rhyme scheme was awesome all the way through, front to back. Awesome, absolutely awesome.
Okay, appreciate you.
Absolutely.
I was doing what Dylan was doing, where I was closing my eyes, going along with it, and the words definitely had like a life of their own. They felt like they were moving, and they had energy and like personality behind them, and it was
Absolutely.
definitely it felt like one of those pieces where it was like completely fun to write. Like it might have been challenging in certain aspects, but it definitely felt like it was one of those pieces that like once you started, it was like, oh, this is like a great exercise and great vibes throughout. So you
Oh
could
yeah,
feel
bro.
how fun it
Appreciate you.
was.
Appreciate you.
That was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks, man. We'll catch you again in a few minutes for some more fire.
Better, better up, better up.
All right, word. Now my memory is kind of blah right now, but I think that brings us back to David. Yeah. All right. What's
Yes.
up, man? You got
What's up,
another
man?
one for us?
I do have another one for you. Matter of fact, I put it into the chat here, so I'm gonna have to read it off of this chat here real
All
quick.
right. Cool.
But yeah,
What's this one?
this one I wrote during COVID.
Okay.
So I was doing a lot of school volunteering, and then COVID happened, and a lot of school went out, and they went all to like online schooling, and yeah, I wrote this one. It's called to my online students.
All right. I'll pop myself out of here and get it up there.
All righty.
To my online students.
Yes. So this is to my online students. It says, every day I try to teach, I put my all into every speech. I can't see you, so I'm not sure that you're even there. I just see a round icon in place of a desk and chair. I teach what I know, and I too am constantly learning. Seeing your responses keeps my passion burning. I'm not here to entertain. I'm here to teach and grade on what that you retain. I'm here for you no matter what. I'll use my whole day if it means building you up. I only have a year to go through so much stuff. So, oh man, hold on.
I'm not sure if he froze or hello. Come back to us.
I'm here,
Oh,
boss.
there you
I'm
are.
here.
All
Yeah,
right.
no, it didn't actually send it all. So
Man.
I'm trying to figure this out real quick. Hold on. Yeah,
You can,
unfortunately, it only sent it half of a poem.
no,
So
it's all right. But no, I really like what I heard. And first of all, man, I like what you said about, them just being like an icon on a screen. You're not really sure if they're there. And
well,
it's kind of
well,
like
it goes on to talk about seeing your responses keeps my passion burning, and talks about basically uh how that how that that one day I have so many things that I would like to actually show you guys, but I'd like to do so, but not through a screen of glass. You know what I mean? I'd like to be able to teach you inside of our class, basically. You know, and then it continues on, and then it gets down to the end. Where that basically it says I wish for the day where that I can say I'll see you all real soon. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
but yeah, and
That's beautiful, man. I really like that. And I've talked about this a lot. I mean, eventually Lost Boys will be a live show where I will get people to come here and sit in a room with me and do it, or do it on a stage or whatever. And it'll be really cool. And I think that, as much as I try to make it as personable as I can, like I related to your poem, as as a host or whatever. because especially when I talk to you guys on Messenger, like there's not like I can talk to you guys for a bit and I get like kind of a cool vibe from you, but there's no really knowing you until I've talked to you face to face. And then even then, like you were saying, through a glass screen, there's still like a barrier,
Yeah.
there's
Oh
still a
yeah.
big barrier. I mean, we're in different states. But I like that you especially to your students, because I've had a lot of teachers that have made the difference between a shitty day and a horrible day, and a lot of friends who and I mean I'm not sure what would have happened or not. I've had thoughts of killing myself before, but I'm not what I would call generally suicidal, but I know a lot of people who are, and a lot of people who just a simple word from a teacher has made the entire difference between life and death and just changed
Oh
everything.
yeah.
And I think it's really important to not just be in like when you're educating someone, you can't educate them unless you like connect with them on a personal level, because they're not gonna listen to what the fuck you're saying. And that's why kids don't listen to teachers nowadays, because there's 20-30 kids in a classroom and it's so unconnected and so unpersonalized that it's hard to teach somebody who just looks at you as like like a statue or just another fucking, you know what I mean? And to that, and then vice versa, when it's that kind of teacher who just looks at students like a number on a piece of paper, how do you teach someone like that? How do you get into their mind and actually make them listen to what you're saying? You can't.
Well, the thing is after I wrote that poem, I sent it to the school district, right? And they sent that poem out to 137 different schools. And then it went from 137 different schools to like 700 different schools. And teachers all over, distance learning were actually reading it, and I thought that was actually awesome, that a piece of mine made it that far, back then, because that was again, that was back in 2019, 2020, somewhere around there. And yeah, but yeah, true though. I mean kids these days, sorry, this day and age, get into a classroom, and like you said, there's 30, 40 kids crammed into a classroom. The kids will end up overruling the dang teacher a lot, especially as you get into higher grades. And it's really hard for teachers. One of the biggest problems that teachers have is the reason why they implement homework, right, is so that the parents will also work on schoolwork at home. So that way, it's not just teachers teaching them at school. It's that way they actually embody that at home as well.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of the time that does not happen.
Yeah.
Because of that, they don't have that singular mindset of this needs to get done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so they end up coming to school with whatever it was that was at home, whether it be the fight across the street or this or that or whatever it is. You know what I mean? And it's not the way that. Did you know out there in China and Japan, right? Whenever a kid goes to school, for the first 5 years, they don't learn math, they don't learn social studies, they don't learn anything except for how to be respectful, how to be polite, and manners. For the first 5 years. For the first 5 years, all they learn. Okay, it isn't until after that initial 5 years of learning respect and so on and so forth, that they start actually learning about math or social studies or science or whatever. But by using those 5 years to teach being respectful and so on and so forth, you have a classroom full of students that are ready to learn.
I can see how that might, especially like that kind of mindset of like when you start them young, like it's an impressionable time. So you start them, you start them on learning because it's hard to teach, old dog new tricks. It's hard to teach somebody who's already used to,
Oh yeah.
being disrespectful and wild and crazy and not listening or whatever. So I can definitely see the benefits of that in some respects. But like I said, yeah, I think a big part of it is just the size of the classrooms a lot of the time. And I went to public schools and I also went to a lot of like alternative special education schools or whatever. Um, well, I shouldn't say a lot, just a couple. Um, two main ones that and I think they really these two schools really benefited one was the alt school, which was an alternative school that's connected in district to the regular public school. And what I would do is take some classes over at the public school and then take a bus over to the alt school, which happens to actually be a mile from my house, so I could walk to school in the morning, somehow still managed to be 2 hours late. And I live a mile down the road. When I get there, my principal will be like, "Hey, we start at 7:30, right?" I'm like, pretty sure we start at 9. Last time I checked."
Inside of
But
inside of high
yeah, no,
school.
I mean, but that was just me being an asshole kid. But and when I really got there and I sat down with just a classroom of no more than 5 kids, it helps the learning experience, and the teacher can spend time to actually sit there and like talk to you and explain things to you, or you can ask them questions, and it's not like she's calling on 20 different kids and it's like, what is fucking little Susie and what does little Johnny want, and fucking Johnny needs to go to the bathroom now, and fucking this and that. And it's like, just a small close-knit thing. And I think there's something to be said for like old schoolhouses, 40s, 50s. Now I don't think we should go back to hitting kids with rulers, but I think that there's something to be said for those smaller learning environments that we started out with when we invented
yeah.
school.
I spent
The population's gotten big, so
I spent all of high school, 9th grade, all the way to 12th grade, inside of special ed, and I can honestly say I learned absolutely nothing. Yeah, honestly say that. And the thing was every single day they gave us the same math sheet, and I memorized it, so I was able to just jot down all the dang answers, and then we spent the rest of the day watching grammar rock videos, and I learned nothing. Okay?
yeah.
And
And
so then whenever I got out of high school, right, I wanted to learn. So everything that I wanted to learn, I had to teach myself. So I started reading. I started going to college for freaking business. I wanted to learn more, and it wasn't until I actually decided, hey, I'm just going to apply myself and figure out what that I can and cannot do. You know,
yeah.
but yeah, I was horrible at grammar. I was horrible at spelling. I was,
I think that's something else that's wrong with the school systems is the kind of formulaic, am I ever saying that word correctly? The kind of formulaic, like these formalized, one size fits all learning programs.
oh yeah, cookie
Or
cookie
shit, or
cutters.
every
Yeah.
math sheet, you know what I mean? Like it, or I think that, like I said, with the at least in my experience with those smaller environments, it gave the teachers more time to plan out their assignments themselves instead of just being handed something like a checklist of, okay, get this, and this done. They have to learn, the numbers of pi and who fucking Christopher Columbus was, even though they don't teach us the real story of Christopher Columbus. That kind of shit. Whereas, I sometimes in a more personalized environment, I think it's easier for them to give us not busy work and stuff that's actually fucking beneficial and actually matters. And like I had a teacher that, and I don't know any teacher in the public school system that does this, but I had a teacher that sat down and worked out fucking budgeting with us, like how a real budget is going to work. Like you're going to have rent. You're going to have gas that week. You're going to have fucking money. Consider that you might want a pack of gum and money for fucking snacks. Consider these things. I don't know a single teacher in a public school that sat down and said, you're going to have to consider whether you want to buy a pack of cigarettes or pay for your fucking rent. Because they don't teach us those things. They don't teach us the things that fucking matter.
It's sad today because inside schools now, it's become. Do
you mind if I bring these other people up to see if they want to add into the conversation? But yeah, continue what you're saying.
But no, it's sad that a lot of schools nowadays are getting into the whole like money phase as far as teaching kids how to pass tests instead of the entire like curriculum. You know what I mean? And so it's being so incentivized to be able to pass tests, because passing tests, creates extra funding. You know what I mean? And so I get it because they have to be able to, continue, schooling and so on and so forth, but I mean, it's just so bad now. And they're actually missing out on a lot as far as, what used to be taught. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Two most dangerous things in the world: money and pussy. And both of them make the world go round. We can't live with them. We can't live without them.
True.
I think the dynamic between parent and school has been severed.
Yeah.
In my generation, because I know I'm the oldest one here, when I went to school, there was always a close association between the parent, the child, and the teacher. And we as a society has gotten away from that. You have parents that are letting the TV set raise the kid, and then you're letting the child go to school and have the school raise the kid. And so you are not having those intimate conversations with your child. Everything is not, did you have a good time today at school, and then cut that off. So you have these little mini minds that have different personalities, different schools of thoughts. They're hearing different things all around them, and nobody's addressing it. And that's why you have these kids that explode, because their home life might not be all that great, but they're not given the opportunity to express themselves. And the parents have just about totally pulled themselves out of that curriculum picture. Teachers have a hard time because that connection between parent, school, and child is not there anymore like it used to be. You used to have to be able to sit down with a kid and say, hey, what's going on? How is it at home? You know what I'm saying? And they don't do that anymore. So the kid is, if he's in a bad environment in his own house where he can't express himself, and then nobody's addressing it at school either. I mean, guidance counselors used to be able to do that. There were like many counselors, many mentors. They don't do that anymore. And teachers basically really don't have the time because they've got 30 or 40 kids in their classroom. But my hat goes off to teachers because that is a hard job. You're dealing with different minds, mindsets, emotions. And that to me is just admirable to be a teacher because you take on a lot. You really do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Hats off. Hats off to all the teachers out there. Absolutely. And I mean, just anyone Joe, anyone who works with kids, fucking hats off to you. I mean, even if they're your own kids, you got 10 of them. Holy shit. That's a whole classroom. That's a whole classroom right there. So hats off to all of you. Amazing work, everyone.
I could definitely relate to a lot of your poem with establishing that connection with the students, treating them like people, and actually cultivating that kind of dynamic between the educator and the students. Because it is harmful whenever it's just like, here's these specific number of kids I have to teach this certain information to, and they better understand it to this level. And then, but like you're saying, how we've moved from like people have to understand things in their own ways, and they have people used to actually like they really cared about people understanding the material regardless of test scores, and it wasn't just about numbers and how the district looked and how things looked on paper. It actually was about creating impactful change. And I think there are still educators out there like that, and there's still districts where that happens, but it's definitely becoming a rarer thing, especially with like how tests are like the end all be all for demonstrating and evaluating the competency of an instructor in the class.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
I 100% agree with that, and it is an excellent message. So I'm glad that you got it out here on the internet on my show, and I'm amazed that you got it into so many schools. There's a piece that I have it's a little darker, it's a little more triggering, but I think that it needs to be heard. And it's a piece about a school. Some of you have heard it, some of you haven't. It's a piece about a school shooting. Committed by a girl from the perspective of the one kid who didn't go to school that day. And it needs to be heard. And that's what you did with your poem is something I've wanted to do for so long is get my thing into schools and have kids and teachers and whatnot hear it. So hats off to you.
I wasn't even actually trying, to be honest. I mean, I was physically trying to write this poem from their perspective, right? But I never knew that it would get as far as it did. I wrote a poem one day about euthanization of like animals, and I put it up inside of a freaking humane society. Wow. And they actually read it over the air, and what was it? It was a K-Frog. K-Frog read it and said, "Hey, can you guys adopt a pet?" And they had over what was it, 2,200 people that week that came down and adopted out a pet. But it's a really powerful piece. It's short, it's small, but it's powerful. And I was actually amazed.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Amazed. No. I mean, applause for sure. Yeah, that's a great accomplishment, and the fact that it started just something so small and just grew.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I apologize to anyone if y'all can hear the guitar in the background. It's my little sister upstairs playing. I believe it's either Seven Nation Army or Do I Want to Know by Arctic Monkeys. I'm not one of the two. She was going back and forth between that and Smoke on the Water.
Okay.
But
well, I want to let you guys know I am going to rewatch the show on YouTube to catch whatever I'm actually about to actually miss. Unfortunately, though, it is daylight savings time, and I have to get up at 2 a.m.
You're good, man. No problem.
I gotta go wash it in uniform and stuff like that. But yeah, guys, it was an honor being here. I appreciate it as always. I would hope to catch you again another week, man.
Definitely, man. Yeah. See you again soon.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Peace out, man. Good having you.
All right, man.
All right, guys. We got 3 pieces left for tonight, and then we're gonna wrap up the show. We got Mr. Joe, and then Miss Nasira, and then I'm gonna do a piece to wrap us up. What you got for us?
All right. So, like I had the first one from Slab, my second piece is also from the same issue. This one is another creative nonfiction piece, and it's titled Noodles.
All right, Noodles. I like that title. I'm excited to hear what it's about. Draw myself.
It was one of my favorite lunches at school. Chicken patty with a side of chicken noodle soup. Even when served in the styrofoam bowl with a lid that did a piss-poor job of containing the burning broth within, it still managed to be one of the most appetizing meals offered. Now, it wasn't anything special. I've had my fair share of homemade food over the years, but there was something about the way the soup complemented the sandwich. The taste of the starch-heavy buns mixed with the Heinz ketchup and the once frozen patty just melted in one's mouth. Chicken noodle soup was not so much a food option as it was a beverage. The standard fare of assorted milks and juices were made available, but it was typical for us children to wash down solid chicken with liquid chicken. I stood in line, gripping the straps of my backpack in excitement, my fingers losing color in the process. Normally, I would have reserved my seat at the table with my book bag, but I sat further down with the unpopular crowd, given the seats the cool kids didn't want. The awful bench was buckled toward the left end, which caused any unfortunate party stuck there to sit at an uncomfortable incline. I had seen friends' money fall out of their pockets, quarters running alongside each other like Hot Wheels cars racing down a smooth length of track. Reserving a good seat in my section was impractical, not to mention I was starved. The angelic lunch lady served me not one, but 2 helpings of soup. Ever since I had my breakdown in the cafegimatorium a few months prior, following a particularly difficult math class, the lunch lady saw to it that I was well taken care of. They were like an extended family, and I made sure to brighten their days as much as they brightened mine with smiles and pleasant conversation. I assumed my usual seat at the table amongst my brethren of low social standing. Part of the reason for my exile was because I was a freak, someone who held peculiar interests and entertained unorthodox thoughts. But despite my abysmal social life, I was thankfully still able to enjoy good food. "Whoa," Bert whispered. Bert whined at me. "You got 2 soups." "I'm just lucky that way, I guess," I replied. "I'll give you a quarter for your extra one." "How about no?" 50 cents. That's pretty much like a soft pretzel for a soup. Good trade if you ask me." As tempting as the offer sounded, the snack line was typically packed by the time I finished eating lunch. Eating like a bird definitely had its setbacks. Bert's offer was entirely dependent on whether or not other people got to the salted knots before I did. The last few were either burnt on the outside or cold in the center anyway. There's no way I would have paid for a subpar piece of trash like that. Plus, I had the soup in front of me at that very second. I slurped down the broth and the bits of food followed not far behind. "Sorry, Bert," I began. "I like soup better than pretzels." He looked defeated, which I felt partially responsible for, but one had to remain blind to casualties and wars of the taste buds. Something stirred within me after indulging in that second bowl. An addiction began to incubate my stomach, growing until it consumed my entire being. "Hey, Heath, you gonna finish your soup?" I asked, nudging him with my elbow like an aggressive Oliver Twist. "I don't think so," he replied. "Why?" "Because I want it." Heath looked at me, then at his tray, and finally at me again before pathetically handing over half of his lunch. "Here you go," he said, the words appearing to deflate him. "Thanks, buddy. I owe you." I looked Bert square in the eye as I bombed another bowl. I don't know what it was about that day, but everyone else seemed preoccupied with socializing instead of eating. I sat, looking at all of the untouched chicken noodle soups. You deserve to be loved by somebody, I thought. One by one, I began making sly offers to classmates for their soup. Either people owed me favors or they felt as if they were bolstering our rapport, making sure to stay on my good side. The one thing about weird kids, when they snap, they snap. By this time, Axel took notice of the graveyard of styrofoam on my tray. "God damn, man, you're putting that stuff away." Words failed me at that point. First of all, the social system had been turned on its head by the exchange Axel opened up, and I could do nothing more than nod savagely and make grunting noises. Second of all, my mouth was full, and I wasn't about to pour out his contents to get a few words in. "Well, here, man, have mine. Keep it up," Axel said. That action initiated a charity of sorts. As if on command, people from up and down the table offered me soup. If the cool kids felt like being charitable, surely everyone else wanted to do the same. Kids from other grades, girls, even the lunch ladies donated leftovers. "Sit down here," came an offer from the cool section. People fell out of my way as I slid down the bench toward the other end of the table, as if they were tousled around by a wake. Some kids clambered onto a nearby rock wall so they could watch my gluttonous performance art. Others gathered around me and began chanting, "Noodles, noodles, noodles! More!" I would shout as another bowl of soup was laid before me, the caterer slinking away in the massive bodies behind me as soon as I held it to my lips. People threw quarters, making bets with each other, paying up for doubting I could stomach another soup. Concession sales spiked, thanks to ravenous spectators. Artsy students scrounged up some quick cash by scribbling up shoddy merch to capitalize on the further. Ephemeral economies were established in utter excitement. I roared after finishing each bowl, which elicited more screams and cheers from my classmates. The chanting came again. Noodles, noodles, noodles. The soup ran out and I was finished. My belly was bloated from the bouillon-laden broth. Chicken was such a part of me, I was surprised I hadn't grown gills. The bell rang, signaling the end of lunch. A few friends and I made our way to the bathroom. "Oh, I feel like I have to vomit," I said out loud into the sink, my words echoing off the bathroom surfaces. "You got this, Noodles," came a cry from a sea of my supporters who stood in a line that snaked out of the door and into the hallway. My posse even barred anyone else from entering the bathroom. I need my privacy. I was a legend, after all. Though I didn't throw up, I still felt exceptionally queasy. My stick-like arms could barely keep my frail frame elevated above the sink, but with my dwindling reserves of energy, I pushed myself up and gained the support of my feet. More cheers came from the crowd. A parade led me back to the classroom. Cheers and screams announced our arrival. When not patting me on the back, some took to banging on locker doors. More chanting of "Noodles, noodles, noodles" could be heard throughout the building. Upon getting to class, we regaled our homeroom teacher, Mr. S., with stories of my feat. After only 15 minutes, elements of the story were already discussed as legend. News spread around the school, and I was congratulated and celebrated for the remainder of the week. However, the following week, I was forgotten like before. As I matured and made my way through high school and college, fewer and fewer people could recall the story. Some are still able to, but not enough to perpetuate the legend. Occasionally, when slurping up soup, my mind recalls the chants of classmates resounding through the bowels of the school, and I feel like my victory parade still hasn't ended.
God damn, dude, you are so fucking good. I'm sitting like I was just sitting here. I was telling Brandon, I was like, dude, I'm in awe. I am in awe not only of your writing, but your performance, your inflections on each of the characters, and like you even made them talk different. It's just fantastic. First of all, second of all, perfect follow up to our school conversation.
Right.
It really made me feel so nostalgic and just like I was like, just like your other piece, like I was a kid again. It literally made me feel, and again, that's another problem with this fucking public school system. The fucking lunch, the whole food, especially after Michelle Obama had her fucking way with it. It's just, and anybody who's been to a public school knows the fucking struggle and knows that if you don't get there, you get the last shittiest shit. And it's just fucking this cold and nasty, and you know, fucking. But and I love how you created another legend. You got half stacks and noodles. Fucking dude, you created another legend. But then so I'm sitting here like with this like feeling of awe in just not only of your writing, but of just this legend that was born, just fucking through such a simple concept, eating noodles, and then you hit us with that fucking end, that fucking that where you fucking see American Pie Reunion and Stifler's like an old fucking like that and you get that feeling of like god damn, you know, fucking. But to him, like the party's still going on. Like I don't know if you've ever seen American Pie Reunion.
Oh, yeah.
But like to him, the party's still going on. You're like, but you get this feeling of like, oh shit, like they're grown up, like they got kids now. Like it's not, you know, nobody really gives a fuck that you did this like cool, great thing in high school one time, or like this, you know, like at one point it was like, it was your personality, it was your whole thing. Like you were Noodles, but now it's just like, you're back to being Dylan, you know, you're just, yeah. I like that. I love that whole thing. And I was just sitting here like just in awe of your whole fucking style, man. You're so fucking good. And I looked at Brandon and I was like, we can't lose this guy. This guy is, you are one of the best we have had on the show. Best artist, hands
Oh,
down.
thank you so much.
Like,
That means a lot.
that was fantastic. I mean, the first piece was fantastic too, but like after hearing that and then the second piece and just like your whole style, I love it. Your whole style, your whole vibe, it's awesome, man. I dig it.
Thank you. Thank you. That's definitely my dad's side of the family, all storytellers, and the big motto there is never let the truth get in the way of a good story. So while like 95% of that happened as I said it, there's still like there's little embellishments and artistic license taken here and there to make sure that the story itself is still as perfect.
And I can tell that you act. You were saying that you act too. And so my mom, you act, but you don't act in a movie way. You act in a play way. And I mean that in the best sense possible. And I think that a lot of times plays are better than movies. Not only because like me and David were talking about, there's that sense of like human to human connection that's not through a glass screen. But so my mom used to take me when we could afford it and when it was happening, she would take me. They did these, I think it was like every Tuesday at the Capitol Center of the Arts, which is in the capital of where I live, Concord, New Hampshire. And they would do these stage performances. And one week it would be like Hansel and Gretel, and one week it would be Rapunzel, and they were fairy tales. And they were all I found out later on, I was like, like 8 or 9, 10 at the time, but I found out later on that they were all acting students that didn't actually get paid for the gig, but they were doing it as like a learning experience, and they were so good. And the thing I remember the most was they were so expressive with how they talk, because when you're talking to kids, especially because I was like 10, but there were some kids that were like 4 there. You know what I mean? When you're talking to kids or you're performing that kind of things for kids, you have to be very expressive with your emotions and your dialogue. And that's something that I just really, really appreciate in any kind of performance. And you brought that. You definitely brought that with that expressiveness and just the way you acted out all the characters, and you were like even looking to the side, like he was sitting next to you. Like it was awesome. It was an awesome, like for sitting at a desk, behind a camera on a podcast at whatever time at night it is. It's fantastic performance.
Thank you. I think it's one of my favorites of mine. It's always super fun to read.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna bring this here up to see what she thought.
Oh, I loved it. It was like being in a movie. It was just, I could see the cafeteria and the kids, and I especially liked the part where like all that happened, and then it's like, okay, that was me. You know what I'm saying? It didn't really live on, you know what I'm saying? But that was me. And I like that. I like that because everything went back to normal. Like you said, not everybody remembers it. Some people do. But for that instant, you were a legend in that instant, and you were living within that in that instance of being a legend. And it was cool. I also like the scene where you went to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And you said you had your lookout was at the door and he wouldn't let nobody in because you had to have your privacy because you're a legend. I like that.
You had to have, you like kind of made a view of like VIP. And I love how you have an element of humor in your stuff.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're a very funny guy. Very funny guy. Like I definitely, and I think at one point you were saying you do some comedy.
Yeah, I've been doing more improv as of late, but stand up, sketch, just anything to make people laugh. I find a lot of stuff funny, and I feel like that's a good way to help people in these chaotic times. Is just
hey. So at some point, I mean, when you come back on the show, you would be our first stand-up comedian ever on the show. If you had a bit for us, you wanted to get together at some point, you'd be our first. So, yeah, definitely excited for that. I'll message you and maybe work something out.
Sure.
Because this show is not all like there can be some dark shit and I write a lot of dark shit, but I love to have a good time and laugh, especially when you can do it like I love how, and I mean with your pussy poem as well, you talk about meaningful things and also have a laugh at the same time. um Fantastic work, fantastic work. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
So yeah, after we do our pieces, I'll bring you guys up one more time just to say goodbye and thank you guys for coming. And yeah, man, I appreciate you being here, and we can't wait to see you again.
Likewise, thank you.
All right, man. So that brings us to our last performance of the night, I guess. Well, I guess you can call mine a performance, or you can call it a, half-ass attempt, as they say. So what do you got for us tonight?
This is from my current novel that's out now. This is an excerpt from My Beloved Curse. This is about a set of identical twin brothers that have been cursed. The oldest one is cursed to be a vampire, the other one a werewolf, because of an indiscretion with the younger brother. Apparently, he got a young girl pregnant and then denied it. And her mother was a witch, so she cursed them because the daughter died in childbirth. And this part here is about the youngest twin. His name is Darius. And Darius is dangerous. He's an alpha male. He is so cool and confident in his being suave and knowing his way about women. And this is a scene where one of the women is getting ready to experience what I like to call the Darius blade, when he, gets what he wants from you, and then he, cuts you up, and you're done. When he's done, period.
You said this is available on Amazon?
Uh-huh.
Sold.
Yeah.
Sold.
So this is a part where he's getting ready to cut his latest conquest, and there have been so many that they know him. And so this is him getting ready to let her go. And her name is Joanna. And he tells her, forget about me, Joanna. I told you I was no good. He pulled her up by her arms to be face to face with him. As he got up from his chair, he wanted her to know that he meant what he said, that this was over. He wanted to make a swift kill. Now get this, bitch. I moved out of what you thought was my place long ago. I've changed my phone number, and you better not come to the house. You're done. I'm going to tell you something, Joanna. You, my dear, were an office bet. Someone wanted to know just how long it would take to fuck the ice princess. I would say that all it took was someone to get their fingers wet. You liar. You can't say that. Don't say that. I know you felt something for me. Now you're going to force me to be a liar. Darius stood 6'7" with dark brown skin. His physique was masculine, like his older brother. The only way you could tell them apart is that Demetrius was bald and Darius had long hair that fell below his shoulders in braids. His goatee, like his twins, was cut sharp. They both had gold, glaring eyes with long lashes, and he was a man that every woman, no matter who they were with, wanted him if they saw him. He was suave when he needed to be. Darius knew the way around women. He had something about him that made him irresistible to them. It was a talent. Darius could convince Satan's wife to give up her life of sin for him. Joanna was a number in a long line of women that has felt the Darius blade. Angry that he could just throw away what she felt they had, Joanna went to charge at him again, but he held her off once more and threw her to the floor. Bewildered, Joanna screamed at him, "Get the fuck out of here. Fuck off, Darius Lipcott." Darius moved away from her as he turned to walk out of the bedroom. She pushed past him, standing in the doorway. He moved her out of the way. It was her last attempt at trying to save what she thought she had with him. Joanna watched him as he walked to the front door. He turned away from her again, and then he turned to look at her as he lit a blunt. He turned his back and he inhaled it, and then he blew out the smoke as he spoke to her over his shoulder, not even looking at her. "Why don't you do something useful for yourself for a change?" What? She was broken. She couldn't stand it if he left her. She ran to him. She wanted to put her arms around him. Darius felt her coming towards him. She wanted him so badly. She just refused to believe that he didn't want her any longer. She had never felt like this before. She had never been in love before. She was a virgin on every level. When Darius got a hold of her, she was always afraid of feeling anything. But he was right. He did open her up. Lustfully, she fulfilled every desire he put to her. Whatever he wanted from her body, she gave it to him. He groomed her to be uninhibited and brazen with her newfound desires. She felt the sun and the moon was wherever he was. Joanna felt that the thought of him touching another woman was something that she couldn't deal with. She couldn't take it. Darius had taken all that she had, all she felt she would ever want in any man. Joanna raised her hands to him, but one look from his face told her not to come any closer, making her stop short. Why don't you do what all you worthless people do when you find out that you are worthless to everyone, including yourself? Joanna sank to the floor. Darius walked out of the door and threw the gold key on the floor before slamming the door behind him. As he walked toward the elevators, he heard Joanna yelling. He smiled to himself. That should do it, he said out loud to himself. Walking toward the elevator, there was an older woman who watched him come from her apartment. Even she could hear Joanna screaming at the top of her lungs and throwing things against the door. When Darius walked where she was standing, she looked up at him, frowning, and took her finger at him disapprovingly. He reached over and kissed her hand, and she blushed. While they were waiting for the down elevator, the other one came up. Darius was passed by the clerk of the front desk, house security, and the manager of the Wilshire Tower apartment building in Los Angeles. They were pounding on the door, asking Joanna to open it up. She was ranting like a lunatic. Darius made his way down to the parking garage. His Jaguar was waiting for him. Good to see you, Mr. Lipcott. It'll be the last time, Grayson. Darius reached into his pocket and pulled out $300 bills and passed it to him as he got into his car. Thank you, sir. We'll miss you. That'll take care of the days that you're going to miss me. Darius started the car and moved out to the 4-car line that herded you out to the building. As the cars in the front of him waited to merge to the right of the street, a loud crashing noise could be heard, with glass falling all over the car in the front line that Darius was in. It was followed by a loud thump. People got out of their cars. A woman screamed. Darius moved out of his lane as others were running from the lobby of the building to see what had happened to the car facing the street. Darius looked over at the car in front as he made his way around to leave. He saw Joanna's bloody, broken body sprawled out over the hood of the car in front of him. He reached over for his cell phone and auto-dialed a number. Hello, Pandra. Is she there? Good. Is she all right? Great. I can't wait to see her. I'll be home in a minute. See you later. Darius drove off and headed for home. His niece had come home.
No. Joanna, what? No.
Yeah.
That was the only word that comes to mind is visceral. In both the events and the description. I really loved your description, especially at the beginning, how you described the two men, and you went very into detail about not just how they looked, but who they were as people. But without it being, because sometimes as writers we tend to info dump at the beginning, and it wasn't too much of an info dump. It was just enough detail to get you hooked and sunk into the story like it was a movie. I really liked that. And yeah, it was a movie the whole time. I was sitting there like, and that's why at the end, I had not, because I kind of sensed, like, especially after, Joanna got hit, I was like, this is like the excerpt is probably coming to an end. So I had my finger like close to the button, but I was like, but that, no, the excerpts are good and bad because they're, and I like the excerpt that you chose, how it was kind of a part of something, but it was also it can be a standalone because, it had a beginning, a middle, and an end. It had a whole story. It had this emotional journey and it had an arc. You know, it had an arc where when you saw this girl's arc, and you didn't necessarily see what happened with the guy at the end, but you saw this girl's arc, and you know her, and oh my god, I was telling Brandon, like that hurt. Oh, some of the things he was saying, like you did not hold back, like, and I was like, oh man, that hurt me. That hurt me, and you could just feel this girl's like her needy like desperation, like, and I loved the line where you said she was a virgin in every way, not just, you know, sexually, but emotionally, like, and I think everybody who's past high school probably knows that feeling of that first person you're like emotionally, the first person that, you know, gets your heart virginity or whatever, you know. And I really like that line and how you phrased it. That was great. And yeah, you just made
Thank
me
you.
feel this girl's desperation and her pain, and then you fucking just took her away, and you do, and I was like, you just, but the way you did something about the way you described, like, and I like that it was from his perspective, but something about the way you described her body, I think you used the word mangled.
Mhm.
It felt very visceral, and it put a clear image in my head, and it felt like I could just picture just, and I mean, I don't want to go like too into detail because I don't want to trigger anybody, you know, who has seen this, but you know, I could just picture that. I could picture like glass, like, you know, because that kind of glass like sticks into your skin or whatever. You know, I could just picture all of that. And it was very vivid and very visceral, and I loved it.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
I want to see what Joe thought of it. Here we go.
I agree. Very vivid. The imagery was very striking. Definitely pulls you into this world that you created. Unfamiliar with it, obviously, from not having read it or having heard it before. But as soon as you started reading it, it felt very familiar. It's definitely a sign of like this really well established world. Very interested in seeing what the rest of the book is like, but is a very vivid and visceral passage that you shared with us. The characters' actions, because a lot of the time you read a book and then the actions are described in such a way that they don't seem to matter, but everything was very individualistic and tailored to the characters, and everybody had like their own flair, and you could tell everybody was like really well developed and
Yeah.
had their own individuality, like really thoroughly thought out, and it, it is just super solid.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something I love too. Is the individuality of each character and how you flesh them out, and kind of you know, like, you know, much like Joe is you kind of perform their personalities in different ways, and your tone, like, your tone was definitely harsh, like the fucking, like, you definitely had that fucking that pimp tone, fucking fuck off me, bitch. Fucking like you had that, you know what I mean? But like you did very well with the structure of each character and their personality. I agree with Joe, for sure. And um, I just want to know, like, is there like a hope, like, could a paramedic come and like maybe like do some magic, or no?
Nope, she's gone. And
More? Okay.
what
All
kills
right. All right. Well, bye, Joanna. It was nice knowing
yeah,
you.
she's pretty much done. But the part that even struck me, and I wrote it, was that he saw her and he's like, okay, that bitch is done, and
And just
turns around. I'm gonna go see my niece. He was
just
so
drove off.
cold blooded
Oh,
that he just like he drove off, and he knew who she was, and he knew she was. He was a catalyst for her doing that, and he just didn't give a crap. He's like, I'm going home to see my Chinese. Bye. It was like, oh my God. I wrote it and I shook my head when I run. I was like, oh my God, Darius, you're crazy. But yeah, that he's like that subtly through the whole book. But the premise of the book is actually about loss. Um, Darius is the way that he is because of the curse. And I don't want to give too much away, but he's not allowed to fall in love at all. And if he does, then it's like he's the one who's the werewolf. They got saved because the sister who was watching the boys of the witch who cast that spell, she actually formulated amulets around their neck so that as long as they're wearing them, they don't change, but they can tap into their powers, but they don't change. So Darius will never become a full-fledged werewolf unless he falls in love.
So that reminds me of I'm sure you've studied vampires, so I'm sure you've seen Buffy.
Yeah.
But one of the most interesting dynamics I always loved was the dynamic between Angel and Buffy, and how if he falls in love with her and they truly make that connection, that he'll go bad again. He'll lose his soul and he'll go dark again. And that was something that I always like, that dynamic always made the show very, very interesting. So I really want to read your book, and I'm really interested to see where that goes.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's so far it's sold. The first week it came out, it sold 10,089 copies, and the last royalty check I got, it has sold over 13,000 between the UK, Canada, and the United States. So it's doing well.
You can count 13,001. I will as soon as I get the money and have my Amazon is kind of it's on Amazon, right?
Yeah, it's on Kindle, so it's an ebook.
You can buy so you can buy a digital copy too?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's an ebook.
All right, cool. Yeah, no, I'll definitely get that because I'm super, super, super interested in this now. I need to know everything. I need to know. But that was fantastic. Thank you for reading that. I appreciate that. And I will bring you guys up in just a few more minutes, just to say thank you again before we head out of here. I'm gonna do a piece for you that my man Caleb requested. Cage C. He had some Wi-Fi or some child issues or both, and had to run out of here. But I'm sure he'll catch the show later. And he requested this piece, and it's one of those pieces that it was like I kind of was trying to challenge myself, but it was also fun to write. Much like Joe was saying about Caleb's piece. So, and I hope this lives up to even close to as good as Caleb's piece. And this one is called Brick Walls and Pitfalls. And I write spoken word, I write rap, and I write, rhyming poetry, and I also write fantasy, all sorts of stuff. This falls somewhere in between rap and poetry, but something I've been working on is my performance and my inflections, which is why I'm in awe of Joe and his. So tonight I'm going to try to perform this not as a rap, but more as a spoken word poem, with more inflection. So here we go. Brick walls and pitfalls. I try to pick up my pen and pretend I'm an artist, but I just stick to the trend of not getting started. This brick wall in my head has become a new constant. I feel sick I'm in bed, using these meds trying to find a new process. Because trying to process my losses and all of this constant nonsense is making me feel like my conscience is lost in the darkness. The monsters and skeletons deep in my closet spin me in circles. They're making me nauseous. I'm at war with my demons. They're taking me hostage. They torture my feelings. They're making me watch it. My terror attacks and my heart is the target. And now suddenly I am back where I started. Back on a bender till I fall on the carpet. Back on a battlefield, putting shots back from my dearly departed. And during the day, you can't look at my face and tell that I'm empty and hollow. but look at the page and look at the bottle. Because I always say that I'll try tomorrow. So the booze was erased and the words they were swallowed, then puked on the ground. Now I am face down while I lay here and drown in my sorrow. And I don't know why every verse that I write starts with me trying to survive in my mind and ends with me crying, passing out, puking, or dying. I've got everyone gasping and sighing, like, why can't you write something happy? Write about goals that you have and write about making them happen. Write us some scenes where you're laughing. Why do you always fall back into this gloom that you say that you're trapped in? I told them I'm glued to the blackness, like a symbiote suit we're attracted. I'm all for the doom, it's fantastic, but you should marvel the way that I mask it in public like Superman's glasses, because I'm the comic relief for the masses, but my origin story is tragic, because I was told to always hold back in. I was told to always hold back and hold on to the rage and the sadness. I was told that I had to be passive. So when I get mad, it's been making my ego get massive. I'm turning Greenberg and free from the evil and smashing the walls I put up in my head till they're ashes. Because now I can finally master this passion. See, this is the scene you were asking to see. This is the scene where I'm laughing. This is the scene that'll be the most graphic. No treaty of peace. You can see me almost ready to snap, and you'll tweak when you see me about to go savage on these demons and doubters and naggers. Because that is how I see my way out of the deep shadow of doubt from my past, when it falls on me like a shroud and my world gets darker than I imagined it would be. Well, everything around me blackens and it feels like I walked on a path that's surrounded by trees with the reaper peeks at me from between the saplings. There ain't no route around it. It's the street I stand my ground in. It's the only place my feet feel grounded. What I mean is that being proud to be myself is the only way I'll be able to get through this hell and leave my enemies all astounded. And that is Brick Walls and Pitfalls. And what do you guys think?
Oh, I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, that was something I was just I was pushing myself lyrically. And I wrote it as a rap, so it's very hard to slow down and get the right inflections that I wanted. And it'll take practice, but I just wanted to see how that worked as less of a rap and more of a spoken word, because a lot of those tongue twisters in there, like Reaper peeks at me from between the saplings, was meant to be said fast, but when it's said slow, I feel like it kind of has a different impact. So yeah, no, I hope people that who've seen it before like the comparison, but as a piece, I appreciate you guys's my words are failing me. Admiration, support. Yeah. Thank you.
It really speaks to how males are raised. You guys are just inundated with societal jails, emotional jails. You're told to suck it up. You're not supposed to have that emotion. You're not supposed to be able to express when you're disappointed. You're not supposed to be able to express any fears that you have because you're males. And that is the greatest misconception that is in our society today. And that's why there's so much rampant mental health issues with men, because you have been inducted. We as women, we're expected to go off the rails from time to time because we're females. And not all of us are like that. We have alpha females, just like we have alpha males. But for the man to say, no, this isn't working for me. I got issues. I need to talk to somebody. You're taught to not do that. It's not masculine. Men are supposed to be men. You're not supposed to have those kind of emotions. And it's horrible. It's horrible that society has done that to men. You guys are human just like everybody else. You're subject to the same human frailties as anybody else. And for some reason, your emotions have been excluded throughout the years. Because if you expressed it, then all of a sudden you were weak. You might as well put on a skirt and wear some heels and walk down the street. It's just like you weren't allowed to be human. And that's what that speaks to. You're saying, I'm human. I have to put on this facade for everybody. And you want to know how come I act the way I act? Why is it always dark? How come I'm not always happy? Because I'm not always happy, period. I'm going through a point where I can't even express myself and feel this pain and ride through it openly because I'm not supposed to. That's a beautiful piece. That really is.
Thank you. Something so kind of what you were touching on is kind of what I was trying. I mean, with the whole piece, absolutely. But with the superhero punchlines, they weren't just like creative punchlines because I'm a Marvel fan and a comic fan, but specifically, I mean, not just the heroes I mentioned, but there's others too. But so heroes, when they were created, were meant to be the first of all, most of them were all male, and they were meant to be like the antithesis of like male perfection and what a manly man is supposed to be. But in those bars, I was breaking down kind of their weaknesses, the and how it makes them human. Like Clark Kent, he puts on, like you were saying, he puts on this facade, he puts on this mask, and but the real thing is is Spider-Man the mask, or is Peter Parker the mask? Is, you know what I mean? And it's the same thing with our everyday lives. Is we put on these facades, and we want everybody to think we're the big powerful men or big powerful humans or whatever, but at the end of the day, we're normal people with normal problems. Bruce Banner has anger issues. The freaking you know they're Batman has a whole lot of fucking shit going on. But I just I am a big fan of comics because they show how real people are put under extraordinary circumstances and put through horrible pain and psychic trauma, and come out stronger and use their faults and their disabilities or their whatever to their advantage, and to then help other people. And and I say this all the time, what makes Spider-Man or any of those superheroes a hero isn't the fucking isn't the powers, isn't the crawling on, buildings, or the laser vision. Because you take all that away, Peter Parker's still a hero because it's who he is. And I think that as people that and as artists too, that kind of applies to us. And I say all the time that like we've been given like this, all of that with our talent, we've been given this talent, and with great power comes great responsibility. And I think that we have like this, or at least I feel like I have this responsibility to use my talent and use the psychic trauma that I've been through in my past and whatnot to my advantage, and then to use it to help other people, which is why I like those movies and those comics so much, and why I relate to them so much. So that's why it was a big part of that piece for me, is because you're right. We're supposed to be, the antithesis of, we're supposed to be, Captain America or Superman on the front cover doing this, but sometimes we're fucking just sitting there with our head on our hand. Most of the time we're sitting there with our head on our hands. It's a struggle, but I appreciate you like noticing and being a advocate for male mental health, because that's something we don't see a lot of.
It's great. That was a great piece.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, Joe, did you have anything you wanted to add? I didn't mean to like.
No. I love hearing people just explain their process or explain their stuff. But I did catch that Fantastic Four line with Doctor Doom. Was that the one that you were talking about earlier?
No, that one, honestly, nobody has actually pointed that one out to me, but thank you for noticing that one. That one, but no, his Cage C's favorite line, I believe, is where I said, I told him I'm glued to the blackness, like a symbiote suit. We're attracted. It's about Venom, and
Right.
and that holds a like special part like to me, because I feel like without my dark side, without my demons, I wouldn't be able to do the shit that I do. And it's like we're connect, like me and the demons are connected. You know what I mean? They help me write. They help me make the things that I make. You know, he wouldn't be able to jump buildings or whatever if he didn't have, you know, a little demon on his shoulder. So I'm glued to the blackness, you know. But yeah, that I believe that's the line he was talking about. But yeah, I appreciate you catching that. Those are some of my favorite lines I've ever written, just because I'm a geek. I'm a word because those lines, and this is me. I got to wrap the show up, but I could talk about it all night. We were talking about it earlier, how there's certain things I could just talk about all night, and those bars satisfy both of my most primal interests. Both of what you go through my YouTube search history, it's all fucking art, like raps or poetry or whatever, and Marvel stuff. And though that just satisfies both avenues. It's wordplay, it's word nerd, and it's like Marvel nerd, and it's just I love those are my favorite some of my favorite that I've ever written. So thank you for noticing.
That was
Well,
cool.
anyway, guys, thank you so much for coming. It's been a long show. I didn't mean to keep you guys this long, but I appreciate you guys staying and toughing it out with me. And you guys were so amazing, so talented, and I can't wait to have you guys back. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. This has been the best experience I've ever had. This was really cool.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Can't wait to do this again. It was great to meet everybody and hear a bunch of great pieces. Best way to spend a Saturday. Best way to spend any day, really. But yeah, it was a really cool thing that you got going here, and I'm really grateful that you let me be a part of it.
Yeah,
I
for sure,
did.
man. I really appreciate it. And like it's definitely my favorite way to spend my Saturday nights or any night, and it's just it really is so cool, and I appreciate you being part of it. I can't wait to have you guys back. Before we get out of here, you can go follow Miss Nasira. You can go find her 6 books on Amazon, and you can also follow her on Instagram at Mistress to the Pen. That's spelled with a bunch of Z's and a 2. You can follow her on Facebook at the author Nasira Stewart, and you can follow her on TikTok at Camila Stewart 55. And Mr. Joe, you can follow him on TikTok at True False Prophet. Follow on Instagram at I think it's True False Prophet on Instagram and TikTok.
No, you had it right before it. That was TikTok, and then Instagram is the
Okay. And
poetry
then
hugger.
Twitter is yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, okay. Poetry Hugger. So go follow them. Can't wait to have them back. Appreciate you guys coming out. Go follow the show on all platforms. Let me get it up here. All platforms. Catch us in a few days for the audio version on all other platforms besides Facebook and YouTube. And we'll catch you next Saturday, guys. Peace out.
Peace.
Peace. Have a nice night.